There was something very interesting this weekend with regards to Marvel Comics. Tom Brevoort, who I believe is their longest tenured employee, he's been there over 30 years, had a very cryptic tweet that said, "I stand relieved." And a lot of people are going, well, what are you relieved from? When you stand relieved, traditionally, it's kind of like a military term. Like you can't leave your post till you're relieved of duty kind of thing. And it sounded like there was a good chance that maybe he wasn't working at Marvel Comics anymore, but I guess there was also an equally good chance that he had taken a piss. So a lot of people were guessing and wondering what in the hell did that mean. Not only did he tweet that out, is it X now? I'm still going to call it Twitter. I don't care. Sue me, Elon Musk. It's a stupid change. He also put that out on his Facebook page as well. I stand relieved. Very cryptic stuff. I imagined if he was fired or something like that over the weekend, which would be very big news in the comic book industry itself, there would have been some articles on it. I looked for them. I didn't see anything. I didn't even really see people guessing as to what the cryptic tweet meant or even acknowledging it. I didn't see anything like that, but there was finally an article today with some more information that was presented in a newsletter, basically confirming that there is something going on with Tom Brevoort, but we're not sure yet. If you don't know who Tom Brevoort is, I don't blame you. He's not an important writer. He's not really an important editor anymore. Basically, what his reputation was within the comic book industry was he was the canon guy. He knew everything about everything in the history of Marvel Comics, and he knew all the characters inside and out. And unless you got the Tom Brevoort stamp of approval back in the day, you couldn't write certain stories with the characters because they all had to make sense within the confines of Marvel's canonical history and all that stuff. As you can imagine, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people who know what's going on behind the scenes at Marvel Comics, Tom Brevoort has been asleep at the wheel for a very long time. Their canon is absolutely jacked up. Their characterization of all their key characters is basically, it's non-existent anymore. The guy basically stopped doing any work, it seems like, but he is still a senior vice president and also executive editor at Marvel Comics. The Popverse are the ones that actually pointed this out and had a little bit of a conversation regarding it. I thought it was very interesting. Changes are afoot at Marvel, and they involve executive editor Tom Brevoort. It would appear this weekend Brevoort teased a future announcement in his latest installment of his highly recommended, that's from the Popverse, not from me, newsletter Man with a Hat. Writing about Marvel president Dan Buckley, Brevoort shared, "I wound up having a meeting with Dan this week, one in which he told me he was going to ask me to do something that I wasn't going to want to do, and then proceeded through a combination of need, flattery, and genuine admiration, duty, and responsibility to get me to agree on the specific mission that he was hoping to entice me into." So according to Tom Brevoort, he had a meeting with Dan Buckley where he was going to present him with a job opportunity that he wasn't going to be very interested in, and he was able to sell about it. Now, what could that be? There is no more upward mobility for Tom Brevoort at Marvel Comics unless he becomes editor-in-chief, and they still have C.B. Cebulski for that. I imagine if Dan Buckley sat down with Tom Brevoort and said, "This is what I want you to do. I want to give you the job of editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. You're going to be the big boss. We're getting rid of Cebulski, and we're going to put you in there." That Tom Brevoort wouldn't have had a problem with that. I think that would have been his dream scenario. So I think we can kind of push that one out the door. What other job in comic books that would be some type of promotion or lateral movement would Dan Buckley be able to offer Tom Brevoort that he knows that he wouldn't want to take? There's basically none. He's already a senior vice president, except maybe if he was like the VP of international marketing or something like that, or maybe digital distribution. I imagine he wouldn't have wanted those jobs, but he has no actual talent or job skills in those things. So I can't imagine he would ever actually get that opportunity. So it sounds to me like perhaps he was offering him a job or a way out, maybe not from Marvel, but from Marvel Comics itself. Marvel Entertainment used to house everything outside of Marvel Studios within Disney, but that doesn't really exist anymore. And I imagine just seeing all the stuff that's going on with Disney right now and the amount of money that they're losing, that they're probably trying to scale down the job force and find redundancies. And maybe Tom Brevoort is being earmarked for one of those positions. Just a hunch. Marvel has been known to be in some state of flux following March reports that Disney considered Marvel Entertainment redundant. Marvel Entertainment had previously consisted of every element of Marvel outside of Marvel Studios. In the wake of the Mark decision, Popverse understands that Marvel Studios has essentially taken Marvel's publishing side on, essentially intact, even as other areas of the company face layoffs, including its podcast division, which saw its workforce cut by half last week, something Marvel has confirmed to Popverse. Marvel has a podcasting division? Well, I guess they did have those Wolverine like live action podcast stories, And I really like the podcast with the stories and all that stuff where you have real actors and everything. And the first Wolverine was actually pretty good, but their other stuff kind of sucks in comparison with other people do it. But they probably didn't need a podcast division. That seems like something that you could probably, I don't know, hire a podcast company to do for you. Maybe you provide the scripts and they actually produce the show or whatever. That just seemed like a stupid endeavor. But there you go, as the confirmation that Marvel Entertainment, as we knew it under Ike Perlmutter, obviously Ike Perlmutter is no more, has been moved under Marvel Studios. And I imagine they're looking for redundancies and they're looking for people that they like, that they think we're doing a good job. Maybe that job isn't going to exist anymore. And he's probably trying to find Tom Brevoort a new soft landing area. And one of the things that Tom Brevoort absolutely has going for him, at least in the eyes of a Dan Buckley, C.B. Cebulski, and maybe even a Kevin Feige, is supposedly he knows the entire history of Marvel Comics and he knows the characters inside and out. So you can definitely see a place where maybe he's the character guy, which you were supposed to already be, but maybe he's the guy that's there to make sure the characters are essentially intact when it comes to the movie universes, the television universes, the video game universes, the animated universes, the comic book universes, maybe any types of novels or kids' books or whatever, to make sure that the canon actually kind of makes sense, the characterization is right. And you could see how if they didn't want Tom Brevoort in comic books anymore, or maybe his position wasn't going to be there anymore, where they could give him a lateral move, or this would probably be considered some type of promotion where he keeps his executive status, but he gets like a bigger position under Marvel Studios themselves. And you could see basically by, the resume that he has and the experience that he has, where you could absolutely sell that to somebody that was in charge and didn't realize how badly Tom Brevoort had dropped the ball over the last 5 to 10 years when it came to the history and the canon of Marvel Comics, and especially the characterization. I would say that's where they failed more than anything. Similar to what Jim Lee is doing right now with his executive position over there with Warner Brothers Discovery. He's not just in charge as like the publisher of DC Comics. He's also the character guru guy. Like he's supposed to be that guy. Obviously, DC's not doing a good job with characteristics as well. Just a lot of their characters are jacked up. Not as badly as Marvel, but he's not doing a good job over there either. And I could see them believing that Tom Brevoort could take this up because he had essentially done that job on a smaller scale for Marvel Comics. And for quite a while, he was lauded. Although he has admitted openly that he doesn't listen to customers and he thinks that they don't know what they want. They're probably not the right frame of mind for anybody associated with Marvel right now, especially after all the failure of Phase 4 and even the initial failure that we're seeing in Phase 5, which is about to get worse because the Marvels is about to come out. So it's very interesting stuff. The poppers ended the article like this. So where exactly is Brevoort headed next? That's still somewhat of a mystery. The company has demonstrated a willingness to push successful publishing and editorial figures into entirely separate areas of the company in the past. Steve Wacker moved from a senior editorial position to head up Marvel's animation department in 2013, for example. So it's not guaranteed that Brevoort is even staying in publishing for his new gig. If that's the case, it'll mark the end of an editorial career that started all the way back in 1989 when Brevoort initially joined Marvel as a college intern. He would later go on to become an assistant editor and later a full editor before taking on the position of executive editor in 2007. He was, at least until August 1st, 2023, Marvel's longest serving editor. Now, well, that remains to be seen. Me personally, just taking the tweet that we had, which was kind of random, but certainly indicated that his service at Marvel Comics was coming to an end, that he had done his time, he had stayed relieved, and he was moving on. The fact that Dan Buckley sat him down and offered him an opportunity, Dan Buckley is still the president of Marvel, so I imagine he's staying in-house, right? He's not going outside of the bigger confines of Disney. And the fact that he does have that experience and knowing the characters and history, supposedly, and what they have done with Steve Wacker previously, I think he's going on to either work in animation or he's going to do a new job that's basically going to take up a position that was doing something similar for 4 other divisions. He might be the character guru now. He might be doing what he was doing for Marvel Comics, but instead he's going to be in charge of everything. And a lot of people will be pitching stuff to Tom Brevoort and making sure that the characterization is right. Can you tell this story with this character? Has this story already been told? If we do this with the character, will it actually circumvent stuff that's already canon that you can't do? So I believe his plate is getting more full. I believe he's actually going to get promoted out of Marvel Comics and into Marvel Studios into a higher position. That is just my guess based on the information that we have, the cryptic tweet, the information that he put out there, and what has happened in the past. And we do know there is turnover going on at Disney right now, and certainly within Marvel Studios themselves. I believe there's a hiring freeze for the most part going on right now, and a lot of people are waiting to be fired. The reason that you promote a Tom Brevoort up into a position that takes out redundancies is so that you can fire 3 other people that are already doing jobs, and he'll take on all the responsibility. I personally believe that's what's happening. He's not fired. He's not leaving Marvel Comics. Well, I mean, he's probably leaving Marvel Comics, but he's getting promoted. That's the way I personally believe is happening. And there is legitimate reason for concern regarding this. If you remember, this guy knows that he's hired morons that can't do their job well, and he kind of just laughs about it. He doesn't seem to take any of this seriously. The most notorious example being Dan Slott in that 616 documentary, where he basically outed Slott as being an incompetent fool that couldn't do his work on time. If you never saw this, definitely check it out right here. There's also a link in the video description.